Happy Groundhog Day. It turns out there are quite a few of really great groundhog books out there. I love collecting holiday books, and this was the first time that I really went and looked for groundhog books. So what I have for you today, the first one is Groundhog Weather School. This was my kid's favorite, and so I'm going to show you a little bit about it. The character, the bunny rabbit, is watching the news, and he is like, all right, it's time for spring, because that's what the groundhog predicted. Turned out groundhog was wrong, and so he wrote and said, you need, other groundhogs doing this. So the groundhog starts groundhog school. And so he creates a list, and he ends up with a class of various critters. And so then it kind of goes back and forth that he's teaching about what a groundhog does. And then it also sometimes shows some facts that are really fun. Because I didn't know this, because so many of us have heard of Puxatawny Phil, but there's other famous groundhogs in other areas. And so that's fun to read about those. And then here we read about different weathermen and different nature's weather predictions, different things that people have relied on for predictors. And so it's really fun. And then they go and they graduate and they go to their different locations where they're supposed to do their practice what they've learned. So like I said, this is a very fun one and my boys loved it. So that was the first one I have for you. The next one is Substitute Groundhog. And so Groundhog is sick. He goes to see the owl and he has to find a replacement groundhog. And so the different critters come and they have different reasons that talks about the different animal strengths of why they could or couldn't be a groundhog. And then he has to find somebody who will be his substitute that year since he is sick. All right, go to Sleep Groundhog. I really like this one. So the groundhog, he hibernates, and so he's getting ready to go to sleep, but then he can't fall asleep. And so he goes out and he experiences the year when he would normally be sleeping, and he sees different things like Halloween. And so then the witch takes him back and reads him a story and gets him to sleep, but he still can't fall asleep. So he gets up again and he goes out, and it's Thanksgiving. He's never experienced Thanksgiving before. So then the turkey flies him home and gets him in bed, gives him some pumpkin snack, and then he's trying to go to sleep again and he still can't sleep. So then of course it's Christmas. And so this one's just really fun because it has the different holidays all together. Really like that. All right, so this one I can see it's the Smithsonian Institute, and so I actually kind of thought it might be kind of boring, but it's a really good book. It has these very lifelike pictures, and it goes through starting when the groundhog is quite young. And so he has been with his mother, and it's time for him to go out and eat. And so it talks about how things were being with his mother, and now he's going on his own, and these different experiences he has. And I really like this one. This dog comes out, and I didn't know that a groundhog is also called a pig whistle because it makes this loud, awful noise to scare off predators and also warn each other. Like later its mother makes this noise to warn him when a hawk's coming. And so just some fun facts to learn and going through a groundhog's day. And then the groundhog's building its own burrow because groundhogs don't live together. And just a really great book that more lifelike and the day-to-day for groundhog. All right, so this one is called Grumpy Groundhog, and the groundhog does not want to get up, and so it goes through different things of ideas they have to give the groundhog a newspaper, and then breakfast in bed, and then they also decide to get him slippers they get him, and then he finally comes out when he's happy, and he plays with the kids and does his job, and then he goes back to sleep. This one's very, very similar. They're trying to get the groundhog to come out. Groundhog Day, a leveled reader. And so they're really trying to get him to come out. He's not happy about it, but he doesn't see a shadow, so he's happy about that. And then the camera flashes and he sees his shadow, and it turns out, oh no, groundhog was scared of his shadow all along. Very fun. All right, this one's really great. It's called Groundhog Gets A Say. And so the groundhog comes out and he's so proud of himself because he has this amazing job. But then he's like, you know what? I really should have a longer, bigger day. Even though he's the only animal that has a day named after him, he really thinks that there should be more attention drawn to him. And so the crow and the squirrel are very, very skeptical. And then he has this other groundhog who really looks up to him, and he's like, oh, this is my hero. So it goes throughout the story in a really fun way of telling about groundhogs and different things and skills that they have and how they are useful. And this is kind of cool. This is the only book that showed this, that, you know, they build down and then up to catch the water so they don't get flooded. And then several of the books show about their different areas, like the nest, the potty, and then the spare room, or where they would keep their food. And so it goes through, and like I said, talking about things that are good and bad about groundhogs. And then at the end, the crow and the squirrel are kind of like, oh, okay, maybe they are pretty good. And so just a really fun little book about this groundhog wanting more recognition for himself. And so a great way to learn about groundhogs. Groundhog Stays Up Late is more of a silly one. It tells a little bit about what the groundhog does, but it's mostly silly because the groundhog doesn't want to go to sleep and he doesn't want to prepare for the winter and hibernating. And the other animals are telling him, you really need to get ready for winter. And he's having none of that. And then you know how it comes back and bites him in the butt, because then it's winter and he's hungry and getting all skinny. And then so he decides to trick the other animals and get them to come out and have a party, and says it's spring, and so they all bring their food out to eat. And then they want to play a trick on Groundhog in the end, because he had tricked them, because it really was still winter. All right, Groundhog Day. This is exactly what I was expecting in groundhog books, that it is going to tell the history of the groundhog. And so really nice pictures here that are just really fun, but it just goes through and shares a lot of facts and where the history came from and why they do this. A lot of the books have these things kind of intermingled throughout it or at the end. Just a lot of great things to learn about the groundhog, why they started this, and how fun it is now. And almost every book at the end says, but guess what? The groundhog really cannot predict the weather. Just in case anybody wondered, it really is only right about a third of the time. And like I said, a lot of them have fun facts at the end. Like, did you know that while the groundhog is sleeping, it slows down so much that it only breathes every few minutes? And, you know, its heart is really hardly even beating at all. It loses weight while it's hibernating. So lots of fun facts to learn about the groundhog, which is really great, because for me, I took my youngest son to a library story time once, right around this time of year, and the librarian gets out the most boring groundhog book. And this librarian, bless her heart, this was just not her forte of reading children's books, because she is just, it was boring, okay, just beyond boring. And so it was really fun to find out that there are just these really great books out there for Groundhog Day. There are so many fun ones, and my library only had 10, and like I saw online Groundhog Day, how cute is that? And so there are so many books out there for Groundhog Day. Definitely check it out. I'd love to hear below, is there a book you like about Groundhog Day? If not, just share with me in the comments, what is your favorite holiday? Please take a second, give me a like, and subscribe to my channel, and share it with others who might be needing book recommendations for kids in their life, whether that be a teacher or a parent, grandparent. I'm here to recommend books and help you find those that you need. Bye.